And there's no doubt that the steam railway preservation movement would not be the success it is today if it wasn't for one man, Dai Woodham. But how did it all start?
Well, I suppose there was a tinge of sadness because they came in, they were all complete, you see. Everything was complete, even calling the tenders, and all the lamps were on them, everything. You know, if anybody had saved all those lamps and memorabilia, it made a fortune. But you didn't. You just didn't do it. But we were 31 years on engines. I would say you're talking about 35, 36 years ago. And
how many did you buy, first of all, in that first batch?
well, they were sold in batches of up to 20. And I think we were the first ones to be allocated. That's in matter of record, actually. And that was 5. We bought 5. And at that time, we paid about £1,500, £2,000 each. But we ended up paying £10,000 for them towards the end. You know. Inflation and all the rest of it.
Did you break any of them up?
We broke a lot up, yes. We broke a lot up. They accelerated the wagon program, the rolling stock program. They accelerated it. A lot of it, of course, was rubbish. It was worn out, 40, 50 years old. Some of them were just grease boxes, no wagon bearings or anything like that. But at that time, we were making pallets. So I used all the timber that was any good to make pallets, which meant I was getting the timber for nothing, which meant I had all the pallets I wanted.
And of course you had the ideal place to store them, really, didn't you?
We stored all over the dock, actually. We couldn't store them all where they were. That was only a proportion of them. We stored at the top, the high level. We stored at Barry Goods. We stored at all the old wagon breaking yards we stored. Because down there, I think the most we could store down there was about 60. All the rest was stored all over the dock. And as the railways come along and said, we want to lift these sidings, I had to move them. And but we were lucky. We had all this room. And as I say, the researchers will realise in the end that Barry was the key to the preservation movement. The fact that we were able to store the wagons at Barry.
And you had locos there from all regions?
Oh, everywhere, yeah. It didn't make any difference to the rail because wherever they sold to, they delivered. They were sold delivered, you see. And they took that into account, of course, when they were considering the tenders, the cost of transport. But as I pointed out earlier, in the early days, I mean, they had no business acumen at all, the railways. It was crazy.
Some of the locos you had there, the 9F class, for example, I mean, they were barely run in, were they?
Well, they were 5 or 6 years old, those. But they were really speaking, those locos were, from a preservationist point of view, were the worst ones of all, because it was the older ones which were being serviced all the time and having mandatory overhauls. And so if you had an engine like, say, a 9F, well, they wouldn't service that because when the time comes, well, they just scrap it. So that the older the engine, the more it had been serviced.
Do you remember the first Preservation Society to get in touch with you?
Dart Valley. They were the first. And, there's a picture of that engine, or there was a picture in my old office, which Cuno presented to me.
How did they get in touch with you from Dart Valley then? Did they write, phone, come and see you?
Originally, they came and saw me. It was a big building firm down there called Staverton. Their managing director came along, and he was a steam buff. And he came along, and we dealt with him for, probably 20 years. They bought quite a lot from us, Dart Valley. They bought the manor, as you know, Hinton Manor. And, but it was the old... If you look at the steam preservation movement, of course, it was sort of complemented by the salt of the earth people.
The preservation movement at that stage was in its infancy, and they just didn't have the money, did they?
I would think there was quite a lot of engines which were sold eventually, which had been preserved about 10 years. Now, the problem was with so many engines, so many enthusiasts, not enough engines to go round, really, is that it became a nightmare. But we had a wonderful man called Francis Drake. He was a computer expert. He set up his own computer, and he took over. When we formed the Barry Rescue, and that was formed in a committee room in the House of Commons. He took over and he said, "Now I'll deal with all the requests for engines." And he used to send me this thing once a month. And he would have an engine, say a 9F if you like, reserve first choice so-and-so, second choice something else, third choice. It was a complete graph. And then if somebody come along and said, "Well, we want this engine," I said, "Sorry, you're fourth in line." So I could turn it up like that. Because it was a long time, 30-odd years. It didn't happen overnight, 30-odd years. And he was a marvellous man, he did everything.
As well as the preservationists, enthusiasts like myself used to go down there and just look around. I mean, if you'd have charged £1 each on us to look around, you'd have made a fortune. How did you feel about so many coming, busloads?
No, it was never my scene. I was never... I'm a scrap merchant. I mean, I could have gone into estate businesses. If you got money like I got money all my life, I could have done all these sorts of things, but money never really bothered me. I was a scrap merchant, and I certainly wouldn't have had no intention of making money out of the preservationists, because it's not my scene. That doesn't give me any pleasure. As I said earlier, for me, what sets the adrenaline is personal satisfaction. I mean, what the hell's a lot of good of money? What good of money to me now? I got all the money I'd ever want.
Well, how did you feel with all these locos standing there? And obviously some unscrupulous characters were coming along and taking bits away with them.
I had to make the provision to say, well, whatever they take, it doesn't alter the price of the engine. Because basically, a majority was taken by the preservationists themselves, trying to get spares and so forth. Or there was something missing off the one that they were buying, but it was on somebody else's engine. So it never bothered me. I just said, well, that's it. I never reported any losses to the revenue or anything like that. I simply left the price as it was. And even to this day, they're still, preservationists are still talking to one another and sorting out what pieces they got which they now don't require.
Did you have a favourite class?
Yes, the Kings. They were definitely the favourite. Certainly if you stand in a cab of the King, it's a tremendous long view, you know.
Well, I have to tell you that my favourite loco from your yard was definitely Duke of Gloucester. Well, the last loco has long since left Barry. And recently you sold some of your railway memorabilia as well. Why was that?
Well, you can't put it in the house. In a great big office, it doesn't look very big, but you can't... They put nameplates in here or stuff like that, all the plaques, you see. And some of it will go to museums. Yeah. Some, like the Barry Castle, I think that chap was a wonderful enthusiast.
The gentleman who bought the Barry Castle nameplate said afterwards that the reason he wanted that was because of its association with Dai Woodham and Barry. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's very nice, isn't it? You know, it's a compliment. All compliments are nice, I think. Yeah. Because I suppose the underlying attraction of steam, of course, is nostalgia, isn't it? You know? And I like to say to people, you know, whatever, some people, of course, are not even interested in it, poo-hoo it, but if we think of ducks, if you like ducks, for example, and you live in Scotland, you've got a hell of a long journey down to Slimbridge. And if you live in Cornwall, you've got a hell of a long journey up to Slimbridge, because you like ducks. Now, all these people who like steam engines, they're not very far away, because we've got steam engines in practically every corner of Great Britain. They can get to, I mean, I can get to Forest Dean, I can get to Broadway, I can get to Big Pit. I mean, you can get to an engine. And I think that in years to come, when the school teachers, or whatever they are, take the kids, bus trips or whatever, to see these great engines, now they're going to be a sense of wonder to the new generation, aren't they? They look at a great steam engine, out sense of wonder. And I think that'd be worthwhile.
Looking back and reminiscing as we are today, is there anything you regret, something you'd have done differently?
Well, I think that you'd have to have a lot of guts to if you would have known what you were in for, to have done that. He had a lot of guts. And I would think that probably, I doubt whether I would have taken it on. It was a hard job, very hard job. You had tragedy, you had romance, you had pathos, you had all sorts of emotions with people that I was dealing with engines.
Some of these people, when they'd finally collected the money to buy a loco from you, I mean, they must have been quite emotional.
Absolutely, yeah. I got oodles of pictures of them presented the check and so forth. And but the emotions which were conjured up with all these people, as I say, broken marriages, people mortgaging their houses to buy engines. You know, I mean, I imagine some of their wives had to be heroines. You know, but it was all there. It's all there. Yeah, all there.
What were the highlights for you?
Well, there's so many, you can't really spotlight anyone, can you? Not really. I mean, what a wonderful company the Severn Valley is, for a start. And the other thing, of course, is that the plus, as far as I'm concerned, was that, which is my nature, I met all the salt of the earth, and the majority of them, working men. You realise they're all mad. They must be all mad. But I think of them as the salt of the earth. I think it was the very, very preservation is the salt of the earth. And if you've been, and obviously you have, what they created was magic. That's what these people created, magic.